I mean, this is
Yeah.
exactly what Rishi Sunak says he's been trying vigorously to avoid, which is people dying at sea in perilous waters in this awful weather at this time of year. In this instance, we believe there were 60 people on a dinghy.
Well, I think, first of all, I'm sure you and I and everyone watching at home wants to send our condolences and thoughts and prayers to the family and friends of the individual who has passed away and the individual is currently in intensive care, one of the refugees who's trying to come to the UK. We also know on Tuesday, another refugee committed suicide, reportedly on the BBC Stockholm, a Cameroonian PhD graduate. And then less than 4 weeks before, another refugee, an Albanian refugee, committed suicide at Brook House. So when we're speaking about tragedy of refugees, we're talking about the hostile environment created by this government, which is causing refugees to risk their lives or end their lives, because we are, instead of providing sanctuary to refugees, we're causing them to risk their lives and even commit suicide. So this is a much larger issue. You know, I found it abhorrent that James cleverly talked about the brutality of the smugglers, because the only reason why refugees have to resort from France to the UK on their journey and fleeing asylum by the boats is that when I was a baby barrister, it was first the Eurostar from Paris to Waterloo. They stopped that. Then it was the lorries. They stopped that. And now it's the boats. So what's going to happen if they try and stop the boats? I fear for the lives of genuine refugees that come to the UK, that they will even resort to even more dire straits to try and come here and get sanctuary.
But of course, people listening and watching this, some of them at any rate, may well be thinking, but these are people who are coming from France. They're not coming from a battlefield. They're not coming from a place where they're being persecuted for their sexual orientation or their religious orientation. These are people who are in France. And you know, the message that the government are trying and seeking to send out loudly and clearly, particularly Suella Braverman, who, you know, didn't mince her words about this, was do not come. Do not risk your life. Don't come in these dangerous and perilous vessels. You know, don't die trying to get here. Just don't come. And that's what the Rwandan solution has said. They called it rather ridiculously, but that's what the signal is supposed to be as well. Don't come, because if you come, you won't get to stay. You'll end up in Rwanda. Do not come. And the do not come message is the message. So what is the government supposed to do to stop people if they really are prepared to risk their lives like this?
Well, there's a bit of hypocrisy, because we also know that the government are tendering for a £700 million contract for 2 large depots in Kent, which was only revealed in the news less than 2 weeks ago, and looking at tenders for those small boats crossings up to 2030, even 2034. So we know that our government itself is expecting arrivals from small boats up to 2030, 2034. But, you know, Vanessa, you've hit the nail on the head. The issue is do not come, not only for small boats, but any refugee who's fleeing persecution to come to the UK. It's not about arriving from France to the UK. It's about a journey. We've accepted for decades since the signing of the 1951 Refugee Convention that individuals will come to our shores and claim asylum, and they will travel through to other third countries to come to the UK. And we accept that when we look at the small boats crossings, Refugee Council found in January 2023 that when you look at the profiles of those who are crossing, they're not economic migrants. 80 to 90% would be granted refugee status or some sort of humanitarian protection. So Vanessa, you've got it. It's do not come any refugee. And we've just had the last day of Hanukkah. We're coming up to Christmas, where, you know, Christianity was about welcoming the stranger. You know, it is contrary to British values. You know, we know what's happened in Afghanistan. The second largest group of refugees coming across small boats are Afghans. We know the public outrage and the public disgrace regarding the British government's actions in leaving Afghans stranded in Pakistan, about to be booted out from Pakistan to Afghanistan because we have not provided them safe and legal routes. If this government starts to provide safe and legal routes, actual safe and legal routes for refugees, then we may have a one form of pathway for refugees to come to this country. Until we do so, and then those perilous journeys will continue, because we're morally bankrupt and we're causing individuals to go through those dangerous journeys to come to the UK for safety.
And yet we know, don't we, that there was that MP who stood up only the other day in the House of Commons and said, you know what I'm going to say, he said, Doncaster is full. Doncaster is full, he said. Now, he's the sitting Member of Parliament for Doncaster. He said Doncaster's full. There will be people listening to us right now and watching this programme who are in Doncaster who are saying he's right. Doncaster is full. You know, we can't get a GP appointment. We can't get a bed in hospital. The social care system is absolutely stretched beyond functioning. And I must say, it's true, Dr. Chevlan, that time and time again on this programme, I talk to those who would purport to know, like NHS consultants, like senior police officers, and they say our policing system is broken. Our NHS is broken. I mean, you know, even our sewage system, they say, is broken. The water companies pumping sewage into rivers and beaches and everything else. And there definitely is a kind of feeling and an atmosphere. Now, you may disagree with it, and not everybody feels it, but there certainly is a prevalent feeling around that everything is overstretched. People are facing difficult times, and lots of people, you know, dreading this Christmas because they don't know how to afford to get themselves through it, who really do think, you know, do not come means do not come. No one wants anyone drowning. No one wants anyone dying in the attempt. So don't make the attempt. Don't come.
Well, look, our institutions, our NHS is very, let's separate the issues of migration and refugees. And clearly, none of our institutions are broken because we're providing sanctuaries to genuine refugees. In relation to the Doncaster diatribe, that's just awful. To have somebody who's supposed to be from a main political party to stand up to this racist diatribe in relation to what he was saying, and it was complete nonsense and not supported by any sort of evidence. Clearly, somebody who's desperate to cling on to power for the next general election. But when it comes to the situation here in relation to small boats and refugees in Rwanda, we know that Labour's committed to scrap the plan. We've already spent 240 million pounds, Vanessa. 140 million pounds last year, another 100 million pounds in April. We've got another 50 million pounds earmarked for Rwanda next year. And James Cleverly accepted Yvette Cooper's understanding that there's going to be another 50 million pounds in 2025, another 50 million pounds in 2026. So over 400 million pounds of yours and my taxpayers' money going to Rwanda, a country the Supreme Court on the 15th of November 2023, only a matter of weeks ago, says cannot be trusted. Well, the country's broken because our government is spending hundreds of millions of pounds to a corrupt government such as Rwanda to not even send one person to Rwanda. So if we want to talk about the system's broken, then we've got to have a change of government, and we've got to have a government which is sympathetic and cares for us as British people, knowing the British values to welcome people who deserve sanctuary.